Hey everybody, Derrick Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Today I'm going to make an old-fashioned dish that I grew up with. It's changed and developed into something a lot more elaborate today, but I'm going back to the original version where the beef isn't all deep fried and all these other fancy uh, things are added in. I'm going to make the old, very simple ginger beef over rice. And so before we get started on the cooking portion, we're to get ahead of everything to stay under that 1 hour clock. Uh, Cook the rice ahead of time. Get the rice started. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes depending on how you cook it. I don't have a rice cooker. I'm going to cook it the old-fashioned way in a pot. So I'm going to turn this around and you see what I'm going to do. Okay, what I've done, I've measured out 2 cups of long grain white rice. You can use jasmine rice, brown rice, any kind of rice, because that's what's going down on the plate first, and then the ginger beef on top of that, along with the gravy. I always like to rinse the rice off, get rid of some of the starch, get rid of some of the dirt, cool water. My parents, I remember helping in the kitchen at a very young age. I was about 7 or 8, I think. And one of the things my parents always said, wash the rice. And so, and they said, try and get the water reasonably clear, wash it many times. That helps wash off the surface starch. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I always did that, and the rice tends to be less sticky. Uh, that's what I found anyway. I usually do about 3, maybe 4 rinsings. Try and dump as much of the water out without ending up putting rice all in the sink. And just kind of lightly grind it. Nothing hard or difficult. And it's lightened up a little bit, and we're just going to leave it at that. And what I like to do, since this is 2 cups, I like to go at least 3/4 inch over the top of the rice. That way, it has plenty of water when we put it on the stove top here. So we're going to turn around and put this on the stove top. Okay, here we're at the induction cooktop. I'm going to turn it on, 1200 watts, 1400 watts. And that'll take a few minutes to bring it up to a boil. Once it hits a boil, then you back it all the way down. I go all the way down to where it's a, a, a low, medium low, in that range. On here, I'll drop it back to 600 watts, and then once it's fully cooked, I drop it to the 200 watts. Oh yeah, be sure put the lid on there. Um, but uh, that's why you want to turn the heat down once the water starts boiling. Otherwise, too much heat builds up in there, and also the moisture has nowhere to go except this little exit. And so you could get a boil over, and you don't want all of that spilling all over your cooktop. So that's the only purpose for the lid. If you don't have a lid, you don't have to have a lid, but still turn it down once you reach the boiling, and then once it's finished cooking, turn it even further down, because the lowest setting here is 200 watts. So that's the absolute lowest setting. Whoops. Now, pot wasn't centered. That's only Only thing about here, you do have to have the cookware pretty well centered on inside of that little circle. And because it's magnetic resonance, sometimes these float. All you need is just a little bit of moisture between the bottom of the pot and the glass surface here. And the magnetic resonance will literally walk this pot all over the place. But by cooking your rice ahead of time, when you come over here and you see all the ingredients, the meat is in the refrigerator right now, but this only takes 15 minutes total. You know, is the longest that's going to be done. You have to cook the ginger first in the oil, and then add the meat and cook the meat thoroughly, and then everything else gets added in. So we'll get into that when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, we're going to cook. This is skirt steak, and this is about a pound and a half. So the entire piece was about 3 pounds. And this is, I cut it in half. And if you're going to have a large party, such as 6 people, 7, 8 people, you'll want to cut the whole 3 pounds. Uh, and so I've already done that before this. Um, One of the things the reason why I cut ahead of time, I also tenderized the meat. Old restaurant, Chinese restaurant trick to softening beef. You can get really tough uh, uh, portions of beef. Sprinkle baking soda on it, and then poke it with a fork, one of those long barbecuing type of forks, to let the baking soda penetrate that meat. And what it does, it breaks down those real tough muscle fibers. And so I already did that, and so the only thing I didn't do was add the cornstarch. The cornstarch is the thickener for the gravy once we get going here. So to speed up everything, I've cut everything out, and we've used fresh garlic, or not garlic, ginger. And the fresh ginger is right here, all ready to be put into the hot oil. And then what we're going to do, we're going to uh, um, fry the ginger to release the ginger flavor and aromas into the oil. And then that'll carry over into this meat here. And so we're going to go ahead and look at the rice. You see everything right here. We have the meat already that has the baking soda. It's uh, I like to allow an hour, but if you're short on time and you're just doing this right now, 5 to 15 minutes is best. So if you get started on the prep and cutting stuff, cut the meat first. Cut the meat first, and let the baking soda get in there. You don't have to use the fork or anything, just sprinkle it on there because they're going to be small enough chunks. And then let it sit for a minute or so. Sprinkle on the soy sauce. You know, Kiko Man, I'm not endorsing anything. These are just brands that I use. And I grew up with these brands, and so they're very familiar with me. And then when we get to the cooking portion, we're going to be adding flavor. Oh, um, if you don't want the strong, salty dark soy sauce, you can also substitute with fish sauce. This has a slightly different taste than, or actually a very different taste than soy sauce. It has more umami flavor, so it really enhances the flavor of meat without adding as much salt. And but this does have salt in it, and it is fermented. And then the other flavoring that we're going to be adding is this oyster flavored sauce. And that is, well, while the name isn't maybe as appealing to some folks, it is a very, very flavorful sauce and very salty. And so we're not going to worry about that because when we add a little bit of water and to thin and make the gravy, along with the stewing fats that come off of the meat, then we're going to add the baking soda. We're going to add water, of course, and stir it up and make a slurry of it, and then put it into the pot. But we're going to come over here. Rice looks like, yep, the rice is good. Only bad thing that about induction that I found that I don't like, it's magnetic resonance. And so if the metal is magnetic, namely that little sucker gets hot, and that's why I put it down so fast. But anyway, rice is done, so I'm going to turn it off. See, it's off right now. Put the lid back on there, so be careful on that. But now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get the wok started up. Now we're going to go 1400 to start with. Got to make sure that it's right over the induction markings. And once we get the oil, you see it's already starting to boil some of the water that got in there. Once that water boils off, we're going to put the ginger in first. That's the downside of having water splash into your oil unexpectedly. But when we put the ginger in, there's going to be some more splashing there too. But shouldn't be too bad. Okay, now we got it good and hot here. I'll put the ginger in, turn this down. Then we'll put the green onions or the white onions in. You don't have to add the onions if you don't want to. I just want to add some bulk to this and not be so dependent upon the meat. So this adds a lot of flavor. And so we're parting the onion and the ginger into the oil. And then the next thing we're going to be adding is the meat. And we want to get that meat down onto the cooking surface so that it actually gets a good sear on it. Then keep it moving. And turn the heat back up. I like this wok because it's got a wood handle, and so it's not subject to that magnetic resonance and getting hot. If you don't have a wok, a 12-inch flat frying pan also works. You just have to keep things moving so that it doesn't burn or stick. And so now we're going to add some more bulk. I like to add bell peppers, the sweet bell peppers. These days, I try to be less dependent upon meat. I need more vegetables. The doctors are advised that, especially if you're a cancer survivor, you do need to make some changes, some real healthy changes to your diet, and this is one way to make it still reasonably healthy by adding a lot of vegetables. And now, what we're going to do while that's still simmering, we're going to add about a cup of oyster, or about half a cup of oyster flavor sauce to start with, to see where we're at. Okay. I'll stir that in. You don't want to add the water too soon, which will thin it out, because you want it to get coated, the meat coated with that oyster sauce. Okay, that's almost ready right there. And for those of you that want something a little spicier, you can add a serrano chili pepper, cut it up. If you want it less hot, make sure you take the seeds out and just use the outer portion, the outer ring. And so what we're going to do, that while that's getting up to temperature, we're going to prepare the thickener. Is we're going to start putting some water in here, let that heat up. And what we want to do, see how that's got some body to it. It's not just plain water. It's the juices of the vegetables, the juices of the meat. So it's not going to take a lot of thickener, but if you're not a big fan of ginger, you can use less, or you can use more if you really like ginger. So it's up to you. It's adjustable. It's not set in stone. Just make it to your family's liking. And then over here, I'm going to mix the cornstarch just a little bit, and this will put some real body on the juices. So also we want to put a little bit of fish sauce in over here. One of the things that we want to do also is taste to see what the salt level is on this. So I'm going to, oh yeah, that'll be real good. It's real super salty, but at the same time super sweet. And so it's not going to take too much. A little more water, and you say, well, that looks pretty good, or you're saying that looks kind of watery right now. Well, yeah, you're right. It looks a little watery right now, but it'll thicken up here in just a moment. And what's nice about having extra liquid in here, nothing dries out, and the rice that you serve on with this will absorb a majority of that gravy. So here we are, 14 minutes, and We're just about ready. I'm just waiting for this to get up to temperature a little bit more. Once I put the cornstarch in, you can also substitute the cornstarch with potato starch. All it is just a thickener to give the gravy a little more body. So here we are, 14 minutes, almost 15 minutes. We're going to put this in, and then we're going to stir things in, and then we're going to put the green onions in. And this has as this gets up to temperature, it thickens up. So we're going to add green onions again, just for health reasons. But the green onions do give nice color. Okay, you see that's thickened up nicely right there. It's a nice gravy. And so we're going to let it come up to boil, and it's ready to serve. So here we are, 15 minutes and 30 seconds. And this is ready to serve. Okay, so you see how easy a meal can be prepared and very quickly. The rice took 20 minutes. The preparation, cutting, took 15 minutes, or actually 12 minutes. And then I allowed an hour for the marinating. You don't have to allow time. You can marinate and cut the meat up first before you cut up the vegetables or anything else that you add in, even before you start making the rice. The rice, like I said, took me 20 minutes here, from a dead stop to cook. And then you saw the cooking right here was not even 16 minutes for the cooking process, 15 minutes, 12 minutes for the cooking prep work. And so it goes very quickly. And this can feed 6 to 8 people, a full 3 pound skirt steak. And skirt steak is not too terribly expensive. It was $3.99 a pound at Food Max the other day, and so uh, it's reasonably cheap. It's a good flavorful cut of meat that I like to use, and also the Mexican uh, restaurants and the Hispanic stores sell the skirt steak, so it's readily available around town. It's a very popular cut because it's very flavorful. But if you don't want to use a skirt steak, you can also use a ribeye steak. You need a fatty steak, and a ribeye steak is the other alternative if you can't find skirt steak, flank steak, uh, anywhere in your grocery store for whatever reason. Uh, and it happens because I've had that happen to me several times. But anyway, that's a meal for up to 8 people in an hour. Hope that helps you. I know when I was growing up, times were tough, and my parents had to stretch a dollar as far as they could go. So this hopefully helps you stretch that dollar, because this whole meal, including the rice, was under $25 for, and it was capable of feeding 8 people. Thanks for joining me. Hope that helps you.